The story we're about to get into is inspired by a song of the same name that was written and recorded by Alpha Tyler and produced by Tech Riffs. I would love to take this time to thank these two gentlemen along with Jason JV for their contributions. We certainly hope you enjoy this story, and so, then please consider hitting the like button, subscribe, and ding the notification bell. James Craven was your average college student, just trying to get through his classes and make a name for himself on the debate team. He was quiet, kept to himself, and always seemed to be on the receiving end of pranks and harassment from his fellow students. They called him names, tripped him in the hallways, and even went as far as to vandalize his dorm room. It was as if he were invisible to everyone around him, and they took pleasure in reminding him of his perceived insignificance. Day after day, James would wake up, put on his ill-fitting sweater vest, and head off to another lecture filled with hostile stares and cold shoulders. Our story begins with James' first day of class, where he sits in the back of the room, trying to blend in with the other students. His eyes dart nervously around the room as the professor introduces himself and launches into a lecture on the works of Shakespeare. As James takes out his notebook, he can't help but notice the girl sitting in front of him. Her long, raven hair cascades down her back, and she wears a pair of stylish glasses that frame her delicate features perfectly. He finds himself wondering what her name is, and if she might be friendly. But before he can muster up the courage to say hello, the class breaks for lunch. As they file out of the room, James feels a sharp pain in his shoulder and looks down to find that someone has etched the words "loser" into his backpack. Tears well up in his eyes, and he can't help but feel a familiar wave of anger and frustration wash over him.
You think you have a real shot at Shelley Cooper? Get a damn clue, you loser. You don't have a snowball's chance in hell with a face like that.
The person starting with poor young man was his classmate named Billy Strode, whose taunts and laughter were being echoed by their classmates in James' ears as they surrounded him, trapping him against the wall of the hallway. James' face burned with humiliation, but something snapped inside him. He felt a sudden surge of rage, but with a huge crowd of witnesses around staring at him, James knew he had no other choice but to keep his cool and just take his leave. James was able to fight his way out of the crowd with another student attempting to trip him up, and was almost successful, but James managed to maintain his balance before making it to the nearby exit. James' dorm was a few streets away from campus, so he would walk to and from on a regular basis. Later in the evening, as James was walking home from campus, he was about halfway home when he passed an alleyway where Billy Strode and his buddy Derek West were hanging out in. They spotted James walking by, not noticing them at all, so they decided to take advantage of the situation by sneaking up from behind James. They grabbed the unsuspecting man and took him to the alley, where they began to pummel and kick him. During the assault, James can be heard crying out for help by two other college students walking by.
Yo, Dan! Think we should do something?
No way, bro. That poor bastard probably has it coming, and besides, we don't know if those dudes are armed or not.
Poor James was left to fend for himself. Finally, moments later, after sustaining minor injuries, James makes it back to his dorm room. He slides the key into the lock, turns it, and falls into his bed, still clutching his bloody and bruised face. He can't believe how cruel his classmates are, how they seem to take pleasure in his pain. As he lies there, anger and despair churning within him, an idea begins to form in the recesses of his mind. An idea that would change everything. The next day, James arrives at class looking worse for wear, his face heavily bandaged and his body still aching from the beating he endured the night before. He takes his usual seat in the back of the room, feeling more invisible than ever. But something has shifted within him. There's a new determination in his eyes, a fire burning brightly underneath his surface calm. He can't help but notice the way people are looking at him differently, the way they seem to hesitate before they taunt him or trip him in the hallway. They sense the change in him, and it unnerves them. A thirst for revenge started to build up within James' soul and his heart, but he knew that he couldn't just go after Billy and Derek right away. He needed to bide his time, he needs to be in the best shape of his life, and also he couldn't free the beast on anyone in civilian clothes. He would need a costume or some sort of disguise to conceal his identity. Later that same day, during the evening hours when James would be seen heading back to his dorm, he instead decides to hit the gym on campus. He spends the next few hours working out, lifting weights, and running on the treadmill, building his body up. Working every muscle group he can to be in the best shape possible for when he decides to unleash his rage on those who dared to mess with him. James has been putting in work at the gym for the past month now, and not only has he noticed some significant differences, but his classmates have as well. He's no longer the easy target he once was. In fact, he's starting to become quite intimidating himself. His muscles bulge beneath his skin, and his posture exudes confidence. Even though he still feels the sting of their cruel words, he knows that he's on the right path. He's going to show them all. Little do they all know, they're about to become his prey soon enough. Later in the day after class, James decides to do a little shopping to get his outfit together. He grabs a pack of black t-shirts, some black jeans, a pair of boots, and a black leather jacket with an attached hoodie. The jacket is the perfect disguise, concealing his identity while also making him look incredibly intimidating. He checks himself out in the mirror, admiring his new look and feeling a sense of power surge through him. When he gets home, he continues to shop, but online on his laptop. He orders a pair of black leather gloves and a rubber skull mask. The mask is perfect for when he finally decides to reveal his true self to Billy and Derek. As the days go by, James continues to train, pushing his body to its limits. He knows that he needs to be at the top of his game if he's going to succeed. He spends hours running through the woods, perfecting his fighting skills, and practicing with various weapons he orders online. His strength grows with each passing day, and his confidence soars. He feels like he can take on the world, and he's starting to believe that maybe he can. The very next day, on Monday, right after his final class, James was about to step off campus, but he's stopped by a friendly and familiar voice.
Hey, James, wait up.
James turns around to see that it's Shelley Cooper, who apparently wants to talk to him.
Oh, hey Shelley.
He says, feeling a little taken aback by the unexpected encounter.
I was actually just about to head home. But if there's something on your mind, I'm all ears.
Shelley looks at him nervously, shuffling her feet a bit before she finally says,
Look, I know we haven't really talked much lately, but I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for what they've done to you, you know, Billy and Derek.
James' eyes widen in surprise as he looks at Shelley, clearly taken back by her words.
What? Really?
He asks, not sure how to respond.
They've been acting like real jerks lately, and I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you or try to help you.
James finds himself at a loss for words. He's never really thought of Shelley as a friend, but he can't help but feel a little warmed by her apology.
It's okay.
He manages to say, trying to sound sincere.
I really appreciate it.
And with that, they were about to part ways, but Shelley takes James by surprise by asking him out.
Hey, I was wondering what you're doing this Friday?
She says, biting her lip nervously.
Well, if you're not busy or anything, maybe we could hang out or something?
James hesitates for a moment, caught off guard by her invitation. He doesn't want to seem rude or ungrateful, but at the same time, he's not sure how comfortable he is with Shelley.
Sure.
He says finally.
I don't have any plans, so what did you have in mind?
As the days go by, James finds himself looking forward to their planned Friday outing. He's not quite sure what Shelley has in mind, but he's open to the idea of spending time with her. He continues to train and prepare for his encounter with Billy and Derek, knowing that he needs to be at the top of his game if he's going to exact his revenge. The anticipation is almost unbearable, but he tries to focus on the present and enjoy his time with Shelley. On the day of their outing, James meets Shelley at the mall. They spend the afternoon browsing through the shops, laughing and talking. Shelley seems to really enjoy James' company, and he finds himself enjoying hers as well. They have lunch at a small, cozy restaurant where they share a delicious pasta dish and a bottle of wine. The conversation flows effortlessly, and James begins to see Shelley in a whole new light. As the afternoon turns to evening, they decide to go to the movies. They see a romantic comedy that Shelley insists James will love, and surprisingly, he does. As they sit there, sharing popcorn and laughing at the on-screen antics, James feels a strange sense of contentment wash over him. It's been so long since he's been able to just relax and enjoy himself like this. Shelley and James would have many dates leading well into the middle of fall. On a cool October evening, Shelley informs about a Halloween costume party at a friend's house.
It's gonna be so much fun. We can dress up together as something really cute,
She says with a mischievous glint in her eye. James agrees, feeling a newfound sense of excitement course through him. They spend hours debating on the perfect couple's costume idea before finally settling on something they both think is perfect. The night of the party arrives, so James and Shelley meet up at her place so they can drive together. Now before James had arrived at Shelley's, he remembered to bring his backpack with him that has his other costume and some deadly weapons for just in case. As they get ready, they dance around each other, teasing and laughing. The anticipation for the party is palpable, and they can't wait to show off their costumes. Shelley helps James into his costume, and devilishly handsome outlaw biker, while she dons a sexy schoolgirl costume.
Oh. What is it with you bad boy types?
Shelley teases with a playful wink. James blushes slightly, feeling a thrill run through him. They arrive at the party and are instantly swept up in the festive atmosphere.
You go ahead, Shell. I'm just gonna put this away.
James waits for Shelley to leave the entrance area before stashing his backpack in the nearby closet. The house is decorated to the nines, with spooky decorations and glowing pumpkins. The music is loud and lively, and people are dancing and mingling in every corner. They make their way through the crowd, hands clasped together, feeling more like a real couple with each passing moment. As the night wears on, they find themselves at the makeshift bar, laughing and flirting with each other. Shelley's eyes sparkle when she looks at James, and he can't help but feel a sense of pride and possessiveness welling up inside him. They notice their classmates getting their pictures taken.
Hey, we should get our pics taken, so we can remember our first Halloween together,
Shelley says with a grin. James agrees, feeling his heart flutter at her words. They make their way to the makeshift photo staging area before Shelley informs James that she wants to get a quick of James in his costume by himself. As soon as she turns around to face James, Billy and Derek sneak up behind James with a large punch bowl, which they raise over his head before dumping the beverage all over James, soaking his clothes and ruining his costume. Everyone in the house, including Shelley, are laughing and snapping pics of the humiliated James, whose rage starts to build. It was a setup. Shelley, Billy, and Derek had this prank planned all along. James takes a deep breath, then proceeds to make his way to the front door of the house. He stops at the closet to get his backpack and then makes his exit. Moments later, as party continues, the power suddenly cuts out, leaving everyone in total pitch black darkness.
All right, Billy. Very funny. Joke's over.
Shelley declares.
I swear, it's not me. This time.
Suddenly, a scream can be heard from one of the costumed guests before they were stabbed by a dark, mysterious figure.
Okay. Not funny. I get this is the spooky season, but come on.
Shelley's friend Mia, whose parents own the house, yells out.
Derek, come with me to the garage. That's where the breaker is.
Mia says as she turns on the flashlight from her phone. As she and Derek check the breaker, Mia's suspicions were correct. Somebody had turned all the breakers off, so she switches them back on one by one. Once the lights came back on, there was a collective scream, which caused the couple to rush back to the party scene.
What? What happened?
Derek asks as everyone in the panicked group point at not one, not two, but 3 dead bodies in the room.
Quick! Somebody call the cops!
Billy yells out while feeling lucky he's still breathing. Police arrived on scene with medics who collect the bodies from the house, as officers gather witness statements from everybody present at the house. Afterwards, both Mia and Derek start cleaning up the house when Mia stumbles upon what appears to be a note.
Oh God, Derek! I think we're being hunted.
Mia informs her boyfriend before reading the note out loud.
Trick or treat. You and your friends are dead meat. Happy Halloween.
The note is signed with a creepy smiley face. The message sends a chill down both their spines. 2 days later, back at their class, James can be seen sitting at his usual place in the back. Shelley looks at him nervously, thinking maybe it was him who may have snapped. James notices her stare, but plays it off by not looking at her at all.
Miss Cooper.
Professor Hill calls for Shelley's attention.
Yes, sir?
She asks, her voice shaky.
I apologize for not being the most entertaining college professor, but I'm still the one in charge of this class, so I'm sure whatever you have to say to Mr. Craven can wait till afterwards.
He says, shooting her a warning look. Later after class, Shelley spots James sitting by the flagpole. She needs to know what happened with James after he left. If he did leave. Or was it him who cut the power and killed the 3 victims at the party? She slowly approaches James, who is writing some notes in his notebook.
James?
What do you want, Shelley? Haven't you done enough damage?
He says, his voice laced with anger and pain.
I am sorry.
She stammers, tears forming in her eyes.
I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I just thought it'd be fun.
Fun for who? 'Cause it wasn't for me.
He looks her straight in the eye, daring her to lie.
I don't know. Everyone just kept talking about how you always get what you want, and
She trails off, her voice barely audible.
I just got tired of it.
Yeah, well, you of all people should know just as well as I do that I had to work for everything I have. So you could have had my back. But you didn't. So now, here we are.
James trails off as he stuffs his notebook back in his backpack so he can head home.
James? What happened to you after you left the party?
Shelley asks, cutting right to the chase.
I don't see how that's any of your business. I mean, it's not like we're a couple anymore. Oh, right, silly me. We never really were, weren't we?
He says, the bitterness in his voice clear as day.
Look, I was wrong for what I did, but that doesn't mean I don't care.
I called an Uber and went home to wash off all the sweet punch I had. Why?
He asks, his voice laced with anger and pain.
That night, somebody cut the power at Mia's before hacking up 3 of our friends.
Oh, wait, please, don't tell me. Let me guess. You think I did it, right?
He asks, a hint of sarcasm in his tone.
No, I didn't mean that.
She stammers, her voice trailing off.
Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that it was me. Why would I tell you? We're not a couple. We're damn sure not friends. And you expect me to just out myself to you? Please, make that make sense.
James says before turning his back to Shelley so he can take his leave.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that.
Shelley calls after him, but it's too late. James doesn't respond and instead quickens his pace, eager to get away from the girl who used to be his girlfriend. He wonders if she'll ever understand the weight of his words, or if she'll just keep on assuming the worst about him. As he walks away, he can't help but think to himself.
She's not sorry, but soon she will be. They all will.
A chilling smile creeps across his face as he envisions the dark path that lies ahead. After getting home to his dorm, James goes to change into his hunting gear. Everything had arrived in a timely fashion. He puts on his black jeans and black work boots, next came his black t-shirt and black leather jacket with an attached hood, then he puts on his black leather gloves and rubber skull mask before pulling up his hood over his head. The modern-day Grim Reaper was ready to hunt down more of his prey. James decides to take the shadows in the alley that was the halfway point between home and school. Eventually, he can hear a conversation being had between who he can now see is Derek and Mia, who is the host of the Halloween costume party.
Come on, baby. Let's cut through here. It's the quickest way to my place.
Derek tells Mia, who is very reluctant.
I don't know Derek. After what happened at the party.
Mia trails off.
Don't worry, I'm here with you. Got my flashlight, so we'll be good.
Derek reassures Mia, who finally agrees. When they reach the halfway point through the alley, Mia, ironically enough, decides to stop and take a moment with Derek. She pulls him close so the two can start making out.
Well, so much for being scared.
Derek jokes.
I have to admit, babe. This is kind of hot. In the dark. All alone. Danger lurking around every corner. but I'm here with my knight in shining armor.
Suddenly, the love fest was cut short when James kicks an empty can around. The sound echoed throughout the alley, shaking the poor, unsuspecting couple.
Baby, did you hear that?
Mia asks, clearly scared.
No, I don't think so.
Derek lies, his heart pounding.
Yeah, there it is again.
She says, her voice shaking.
Maybe we should just get out of here.
Derek whispers, his voice barely audible. As they were about to continue on through the alley, they were quickly stopped dead in their tracks as they see a dark figure emerge from the shadows.
What the hell are you supposed to be, you creepy asshole?
Derek shouts at the figure that he and Mia do not know is James in the terrifying costume, who stops, and you can see his broad shoulders rise up and down from his rage-filled heavy breathing.
Okay. Nice job, loser. You got us. You can go now.
Derek yells, not realizing the danger they are in. The figure cocks his head to the side as all the awful memories of him being picked on flash before his very eyes.
Billy! Is that you, bro? I swear if it is.
Derek declares as he approaches the figure.
Derek! Are you crazy? What if that isn't Billy?
Mia calls frantically, but it's too late. Derek has already walked up to the figure and poked him in the chest.
All right, Bill, come on, lose the mask.
And with that, in one swift motion, the Reaper slits Derek's throat with his pocket knife. Blood sprays out in an arc, covering the figure in its warm, sticky embrace. Mia screams, dropping to her knees in horror as she watches the life drain from Derek's body. The Reaper slowly turns to face her, his cold, dead eyes boring into her soul. She cowers in fear, shaking uncontrollably.
Please.
But it's already too late. With a chilling growl, the Reaper lunges forward, wrapping his strong, leather-clad arms around her and squeezing tightly. Her bones crack and pop as he crushes her ribcage, her airway is cut off and she gasps for breath. In a final act of defiance, she struggles against him, clawing at his face, leaving shallow marks in the mask. But it's futile. The Reaper shows no mercy, and he headbutts the defenseless woman before letting her drop to her knees so he can grip her head with both hands. James lifts his mask up enough to expose his mouth. He plants a small kiss on Mia's forehead before wrenching her head hard enough to snap her neck, killing her instantly, which gave the newly born Reaper a euphoric rush. He lets out a long, deep breath, feeling more alive than he has in years. He stands there for a moment, taking in the silence that follows, the weight of his actions pressing down upon him. Then, slowly, he turns around and takes his leave, disappearing into the night. It wasn't until early next morning when police arrived at the scene of the crime with paramedics to collect the lifeless corpses of Mia and Derek. Two officers were discussing their findings.
So what do you think, Mike?
Well, looks like we have a serial killer on our hands.
Think there's a connection?
There has to be. I mean, these are the same people who hosted that party where we found the first 3 victims.
Right, we should probably warn the college campus nearby.
Officer Mike nods in agreement. Later in the day, back at their final class for the day, Shelley and James are seated in their usual places. Although she refuses to look at James, Shelley can't help but feel that her instincts are right about the man she played, and the look of regret starts to wash over her. James, on the hand, was doing a great job putting on his best poker face, not showing any signs of guilt or fear. Right as class was about to be dismissed, the 2 officers from the murder scene knock on the door before entering.
I'm sorry, officers, but is there some sort of trouble?
Professor Hill asks the 2 gentlemen.
As a matter of fact, Professor, there is. Now nobody here is in any trouble. For now.
Officer Mike starts to explain.
We just came here to put everyone on high alert. We've discovered 2 individuals in a nearby alley that were slain. Going by their school IDs, they are Mia Reynolds and Derek West.
The officer was cut off by a collective of gasps and slight panic.
Now I understand everyone's fears, but this isn't the time to panic, but rather time to strategize how we travel from place to place.
Officer Mike continues.
We highly recommend that from here on out, please implement the buddy system. No matter where you go, please travel with a buddy, or better yet, in a group, because remember, There's always safety in numbers. Do not go anywhere that is dark. Always stay in the light. And lastly, if you have any information in regards to this case you feel would be of help, then by all means feel free to give us a call at any time. If you see and/or hear anything, please let us know as soon as possible. Any and all help is very much appreciated, and with that, we thank you for your time. Professor?
Officer Mike nods to the professor before nodding to the students. As the officers leave the classroom, Shelley's heart races with fear. She can't shake the feeling that the man she's been sitting close to all day might be the killer. James, on the other hand, remains calm and composed. He gives Shelley a small nod, trying to reassure her that everything is going to be okay. But she can't help but feel uneasy. After class, just as James was about to exit the building, he gets shoved out from behind by Billy Strode.
You piece of shit! You killed him, didn't you?
Billy shouts, his face twisted with rage. Before James can respond, Billy lunges forward, fists clenched. James tries to defend himself, but Billy is relentless, pummeling him mercilessly. James' rage starts building within him, and with sudden rush of adrenaline, he manages to grab Billy's leg, tripping him and bringing him down to his level. When Billy rolls over, James gets on him and starts punching his longtime bully in the face over and over again until his face is black and blue. It wasn't until Billy's nose started bleeding before some of their fellow classmates rushed over to get James off of his longtime rival.
How does it feel, Billy? Huh?
James starts to shout.
Remember this ass whipping you just received, because you've had it coming for a long, long time, motherfucker.
Shelley can overhear the rage surging out through James' voice. James gets a glance at Shelley with the look that tells the story, which scares Shelley to her core.
Oh my God.
She mutters to herself. James manages to get a kick into Billy's ribs before taking his leave. Billy can see Shelley approach him.
Shell, please, help me.
Billy chokes out through painful coughs, but Shelley is having none of it.
Yeah. I don't think so. It's your fault that James is like this now. You're responsible for his change, you bastard.
Shelley shouts before leaving the scene of the fight. Later that night, Billy was out with some of his friends. The group pull up to a nearby liquor store in one of Billy's buddies' car.
All right, Dave. 2 cases of drink, right?
Billy confirms the order with his buddy before entering the store with 2 other friends, leaving Dave the driver all by himself. Suddenly, Dave hears the rear driver's side door open and close. He looks into his rearview mirror only to see a hooded skull face staring back at him before getting his throat sliced, causing him to choke on his own blood. James pulls Dave's lifeless body to the back seat so he can take his place behind the wheel. James then fires up the car before peacing out. After purchasing their desired items, Billy and company come out of the store to see that Dave and his car were missing.
What the fuck, Dave?
Don't worry, Bill. I'll just get us an Uber to Dave's. That asshole and his pranks.
One of the friends says in frustration. Once they get to Dave's place, Billy and company quickly realize something was wrong. Dave's car was missing, but the lights in the house are on. Once they've entered into the house, they make their way to the living room where they see Dave sitting his recliner with the TV on.
Dave. Dude, what the hell?
Billy was stopped dead in his tracks when he sees Dave's corpse sitting with his neck and shirt covered in blood. His eyes widen with the look of horror and fear.
Oh my God.
One of the friends says.
It's not funny, guys. This is serious.
Another friend tries to make a joke, but no one seems to be in the mood. Billy, now trembling in fear, tries to tell the 2 friends what he's seeing, but he can't get a single word out to save his life. Finally, they get a good look at Dave's corpse and realize that it wasn't a joke. They all start to panic and try to come up with a plan.
We need to call the cops.
One of them says. But Billy doesn't want that.
No, we can't do that. What if they think it was us? We'll be in so much trouble.
Billy pleads.
But we're not the guilty party, and the sooner we call, the better we look.
One of the friends calls the cops as originally planned, but it's too late. As they're on the phone with the operator, they hear a loud banging on the front door.
I'll check the door. You stay on the phone with them.
Billy whispers to his friends as he nervously makes his way to the front door. As he approaches, he can see the hooded skull mask figure that he doesn't know is James. His hands are shaking uncontrollably as he tries to open the door.
Hello? Who's there?
James doesn't respond, but instead kicks the door open with such force that Billy is thrown against the wall. James stays muted so he doesn't give himself away. He slowly walks into the living room where his two friends are on the phone with the police.
Hello?
One of the friends nervously says into the phone. James raises his arm, revealing a butcher knife in his hand. The friends freeze in fear.
Now, I want you two on your knees with your hands behind your head, nice and slow.
James commands in a low, growly voice, again concealing his identity. They do as he says, terrified.
Good. Now, no sudden moves, or I may just free the beast on you.
James says with a sinister grin under the mask.
You, over there, with them, on your knees.
He orders Billy, pointing the knife at him. Billy slowly kneels down next to his two friends, shaking uncontrollably.
Now, let me explain what's going to happen.
James says as he slowly walks towards them.
I'm going to take your phones, and then I'm going to make you suffer, Billy.
After collecting the phones, James approaches the first friend. He places one hand under her chin to gently tilt her head up, forcing the frightened young woman to look at him.
Say goodnight to contestant number 1, Bill.
James tells Billy right before he stabs the woman right in the throat, killing her almost instantly. Blood spurts out of the wound and covers his hands as the woman's lifeless body slumps to the floor. Billy screams in horror as the other friend tries to crawl away. James, noticing this, turns his attention to the second friend. He repeats the same process, forcing the young man to look at him before stabbing him in the chest. The knife punctures the man's heart and he collapses to the floor, gasping for air as blood pours out of the wound. Finally, James approaches Billy, who is sobbing hysterically on the floor. He points the knife at Billy's chest, the blade trembling with every shudder of his breath.
It's your turn, Billy. And you know what? I'm gonna let you see your creation underneath this mask, just so you know whom you're dealing with.
With those words, James slowly pulls the mask off his face, revealing his face to his bully who pushed him to over edge in the first place. Billy looks up at him, eyes wide with shock and disbelief.
You? James?
Oh yeah. It's me. And I'm going to end you, just like I ended Dave. Oh, and your boy Derek.
He raises the knife higher, preparing to plunge it into Billy's head. James can hear sirens slowly approaching the house, so he quickly plunges the knife with both hands through the top of Billy's head, killing him instantly. Blood and brain matter spurt out of the wound, splattering across James' face and clothes. He lets out a shuddering breath, wipes the gore from his eyes, and listens to the police cars pull up outside. As the officers burst into the house, all they can see were the dead bodies, because James had left and disappeared into the night. Moments later, James had arrived at Shelley's parents' house, where she stays during her time going to school. Poor Shelley was home alone due to her parents being away on vacation. James arrived in full costume with his skull mask back on and hood back up. He rings the doorbell, and Shelley checks with the doorbell security app on her phone through the built-in security cam on the doorbell box. As soon as she sees the terrifying figure waiting for her to answer, she calls the police. Shelley slowly makes her way to the front door and carefully looks through the peephole. She sees James standing there and feels a chill run down her spine. She doesn't dare open the door. James begins to grow impatient as he hears Shelley's voice on the intercom.
Who is it?
She asks shakily.
Let me in, Shelley. I really need to talk to you.
She ignores his request.
Look, James. I know it's you. I've called the cops, so you better leave.
She pleads, trying to stay calm. Growing impatient, James starts kicking the door violently. Each kick sends a sharp pain through his kneecap, but he doesn't care. He continues to kick and curse until he finally manages to break the door handle off. With the handle now broken off, he pushes the door open. However, when he enters, Shelley is nowhere to be seen. He looks around frantically for a moment before hearing a click from upstairs. He slowly makes his way upstairs and scans every bedroom door till he notices one of the doors is closed, which must be Shelley's bedroom. He opens the door to see what he believes is Shelley hiding underneath her covers on her bed.
You really know how to pick your final resting place, Shell. Time for you to say goodnight.
James jokes before pulling the covers back to reveal that Shelley was not in her bed, but rather an arrangement of pillows, one of the oldest tricks in the book. Suddenly, Shelley bursts out of her closet and gets a couple of swings at James with a wooden baseball bat that barely phases him. After attempting another swing, James grabs the bat from Shelley before backhanding her to the ground. The poor girl tries to crawl to the stairs, try to get some distance from the psychotic killer, but relief would wash over her face when she sees the two officers who spoke at their class reach the top of the stairs. Officer Mike pulls out his pistol.
Stay down, miss!
He warns Shelley before firing a few shots at James. One shot barely scrapes his arm, another goes right through his hand, a third grazes his leg before James decides to throw himself out of the bedroom window to escape from the cops, allowing himself to drop from the second story, although he faceplants on the front lawn. Officers see the young man lying face down lifeless, then check on the terrified Shelley, who is shaken up, but is fine for the most part. The two officers and Shelley make their way downstairs and out to the front yard. The look of shock and terror wash over them as they can clearly see that James was nowhere to be seen.
No way! No one could have survived that fall!
Officer Mike says.
Especially after the shots he's taken.
His partner finishes. An all-alert distress call was made, but there was no sign of James anywhere. It's as if he's vanished out of thin air. Where did he go? Where can he go? Shelley knows him and where he lays his head at night. Many weeks had gone by, and there was still no sign of James anywhere. It's like he no longer exists, which is really scary, but everyone for the most part figured maybe he finally succumbed to his bullet wounds, so they pretty much have been back to the normalcy they knew once before. The Shelley and the rest of the citizens in the town would go on living their best lives, but James was still out there somewhere, and maybe, just maybe, it's a matter of time before his lust for blood causes him to re-emerge, bringing on another dark October.
Happy Halloween. Open up your eyes, it's another dark October. Take another look inside and see the darkness taking over. All in how we live our lives, seeking nothing but exposure. With the eyes wide shut, I'll be coming like a soldier. I'm a freak and a beast, seeking peace and release. And I'm seizing your sheets. If you're scurrying from me, bitch, you have to pay the fee for the free hypocrisy. Marquee of vanity, I'll drag you out in the street. Suit up, wear your face proud. Only time of year you can truly scream it out loud. Show the monster that you are, getting laughter from the crowd. But I'm visiting you soon, seeking penance for your shroud. Sneaking in through your gate, man, this night is truly great. Locked yourself to your own fate, now let me congratulate. Can't relate that I'll debate, I'm elated for the state. So I wait to desecrate your whole slate. Open up your eyes, another midnight in October. Take another look inside and see the darkness that took over. All in how you lived your life, and now I'm coming to expose you. With your eyes wide shut, you didn't see me in the corner.
Oh, the devil on my shoulder is sinking, he's leaving. I feel him taking over. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, the devil on my shoulder has evil ideas, but I can't tell him no now. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Got this little demon posting on my shoulders, weighing very heavily like a boulder, making my heart grow ever so colder, feeding me things that'll fuck my life over, chewing on my brain, but too tough to chew, cause that sucks for dude. Man, fuck this fool, keeps on feeding me all these evil deeds. Why would he let me be, try to lead me astray with his little wicked ways? Right now, my mind state, gotta keep the faith, can't embrace the hate. So much at stake, got dues to pay, barriers to break, not sure how much more that I can take. Starting to lose a feeling in my face, nobody is safe from the monster inside that's locked up in his cage.
Oh, the devil on my shoulder is